The old Blackthorn Manor had always been a place of whispered stories. Its creaking timbers, suffocating shadows, and looming spires seemed to invite fear. After decades of abandonment, it had fallen into disrepair, swallowed by time and ivy. Yet, its legacy persisted. Asterisk asterisk the home of the unseen keeper. Asterisk asterisk when Lydia and her brother Ethan inherited the estate from a distant relative. They dismissed the rumors of hauntings as local folklore. Eager to explore their mysterious windfall, they arrived one gray November afternoon. Rain drizzled as if the sky mourned their decision. The first days passed in eerie quietness. Lydia noticed how the air felt heavy in certain rooms, especially in the attic. It had been locked for decades, the tarnished key sitting like a challenge on the mantelpiece. Ethan, ever skeptical, dismissed her concerns as nerves, but Lydia couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. One night, as the wind howled through broken panes, Lydia woke to a faint sound. It was a soft, lilting hum, like an old melody sung by a cracked voice. Drawn by curiosity and dread, she followed the sound up the creaking stairs to the attic door. The key was warm in her trembling hand, as though it had been waiting for her. When the door swung open, the song ceased. A suffocating chill swept over her, and her candle sputtered. The attic was filled with forgotten relics, trunks, furniture, and a cracked mirror draped in cobwebs. Yet, in the corner stood a child's rocking chair. It swayed slowly, though no breeze stirred the room. "Why did you leave me?" A voice, soft yet venomous, whispered from the shadows. Lydia froze. Her breath caught in her throat as a pale figure materialized in the corner. It was a woman, or what was left of one. Her translucent form was shrouded in a tattered gown, her face sunken with despair but her eyes alight with anger. Lydia's voice faltered. "I don't understand." "You will," the ghost murmured, her spectral hand reaching out. In that instant, Lydia felt a rush of foreign memories, images of a betrayal, a child left alone, and a fire that consumed everything. Pain surged through her, not her own but seared into her mind by the ghost's touch. Ethan found Lydia the next morning, huddled in the corner of the attic, her hair streaked with white and her lips murmuring the same melody she had heard in the night. She wouldn't speak of what happened. Her eyes, wide and unblinking, seemed fixed on the rocking chair. The villagers say the Blackthorn Manor is alive again. At night, people claim to hear humming drifting on the wind. Some say it's Lydia, still searching for answers. Others believe the ghost has found a new keeper. And so the story lingers. What became of Lydia? What secrets does the ghost guard? The unseen keeper waits, her song reaching those who dare listen. Ethan couldn't abandon Lydia, though every instinct told him to leave Blackthorn Manor. The Lydia he knew was slipping away, her once sharp wit dulled by an unrelenting obsession. She rarely left the attic, often humming that haunting melody under her breath. Desperate for answers, Ethan searched the manor's crumbling library. Amid rotting books and moldy pages, he found an old journal belonging to a woman named Eleanor Blackthorn. The entries were written in erratic handwriting, each word steeped in anguish. They told of a betrayal the woman's young son, Timothy, taken from her in the dead of night by those she trusted most. Eleanor wrote of summoning the Keeper, a malevolent spirit bound to the Blackthorn bloodline, offering her soul in exchange for vengeance. But the entries abruptly ended, leaving Ethan with more questions than answers. Late one night, Lydia's humming grew louder, swelling into a mournful wail. Ethan rushed to the attic and found her sitting in the rocking chair, her face gaunt, her eyes sunken. The chair creaked with unnatural force, as though propelled by an unseen hand. "She's showing me," Lydia murmured, her voice distant. "I know why she stays." Ethan demanded to know what she meant, but Lydia only pointed to the cracked mirror in the corner. Her reflection was wrong. It stared at him, wide-eyed and grinning, even as Lydia sat frozen in her chair. Panicked, Ethan smashed the mirror with a rusted candlestick, but the shards reflected dozens of faces, young, old, tortured, all trapped, screaming silently. As the glass splintered, the air thickened, and the ghost of Eleanor appeared once more, her form more solid, her anger palpable. "You think you can break my curse?" she hissed. Her voice echoed with layers, as though countless others spoke through her. You've only opened the door wider. Ethan felt a sharp pull at his chest, as if invisible hands were clawing at his heart. The attic seemed to stretch, its walls warping and bending. He grabbed Lydia, dragging her down the stairs as the ghost shrieked, her melody twisting into a cacophony of rage. The next morning, the attic door was gone. Where it had been was now a smooth, unbroken wall. Lydia had no memory of the night before. Her white streaked hair had turned completely gray, her eyes hollow. Ethan, however, couldn't shake the feeling of the keeper's gaze. He would see flickers of movement in mirrors, hear faint humming in the quietest moments. One night, as he lay awake in his bed, he felt the chill of breath on his ear and a whisper that wasn't Lydia's. "You've let me out." The keeper is no longer bound to Blackthorn Manor. But what does it seek now that it's free? And will Ethan and Lydia escape the curse, or will they become its next victims? The song continues, waiting for someone else to listen. The days blurred into a fog of unease for Ethan and Lydia. They left Blackthorn Manor, hoping that distance might sever the keeper's hold. Yet, even in the bustle of a nearby town, the haunting melody persisted. Lydia hummed it unconsciously, her fingers tracing invisible patterns in the air. Ethan heard it too in the shuffle of leaves, the murmurs of wind, and even in his own mind. Desperate for answers, Ethan contacted Professor Eliza Marek, a historian with a fascination for arcane lore. Upon hearing his account, she agreed to meet them at a local inn. Marek arrived with a collection of weathered tomes and an urgency that unsettled Ethan. "This keeper you described," she began, flipping through brittle pages, "is a fragment of something much older, a warden of lost pacts, bound to those who summon it but never truly contained. If Eleanor Blackthorn made a deal, she didn't just curse herself, she tied her entire bloodline to the entity. Destroying the manor may have shattered its tether, but now it's free to roam. What does it want?" Ethan asked. Marek hesitated. "Completion. It was summoned for vengeance, but the betrayal Eleanor suffered wasn't resolved. That unfinished purpose sustains it. If the keeper is free, it will find new ways to feed on grief and regret. The more it takes, the stronger it becomes." Lydia, silent until now, suddenly spoke. "She showed me the fire." Ethan turned to her, his heart sinking. "What fire?" "The night Timothy was taken. Eleanor didn't die in grief. She burned the entire village that took him," Lydia said, her voice flat. "But Timothy wasn't there. She killed everyone, except the ones who took him. They fled. The keeper won't stop until it finds them or their descendants." Marek's face paled. "If the keeper's task remains incomplete, it will draw you in. It may already have started with Lydia." Ethan clenched his fists. "How do we stop it?" "You can't stop it, but you might redirect it," Marek said grimly. She opened a tome to an ancient sigil. "If we can find the descendants of those who wronged Eleanor, we could lure the keeper to them. But there's a cost to meddling in its purpose. If you fail, it may claim you instead." That night, the inn felt colder than it should have. Shadows stretched unnaturally long, and the melody grew louder, as though sung by unseen voices. Lydia stared into the mirror above the fireplace, her reflection subtly out of sync. Ethan felt a sudden dread as her lips moved to form words she hadn't spoken aloud. Asterisk, asterisk, it's too late. Asterisk, asterisk, the keeper's vengeance is no longer confined to Blackthorn Manor. Now, it moves among the living. And Ethan and Lydia must decide whether to face the curse head-on or become its next victims. But is Marek's solution salvation or another trap? The humming grows louder, and the keeper is waiting. Ethan couldn't let the keeper consume their lives. With Marek's guidance, they delved into the history of the Blackthorn curse, tracing the descendants of the villagers Eleanor sought vengeance upon. Days turned to weeks, but they finally discovered a lead: the Lindale family, whose lineage survived the fire and scattered across the region. The keeper's presence grew more oppressive. Lydia was slipping further away, her humming almost constant, her eyes reflecting Eleanor's anguish. Shadows moved in the corners of rooms, and the melody haunted Ethan's dreams. They had no time left. Marek prepared a ritual to bind the keeper one last time. It required confronting the entity and offering it the resolution Eleanor had sought centuries ago. The plan was risky. If they failed, the keeper would claim all three of them. The Lindales lived in a quiet countryside estate, unaware of the curse that lingered in their bloodline. Ethan and Marek explained the situation to the family's matriarch, Eleanor Lindale, whose name was an eerie echo of the original Eleanor Blackthorne. Skeptical but desperate to protect her family, Eleanor agreed to help. They returned to Blackthorne Manor for the ritual, believing it the only place powerful enough to contain the Keeper's wrath. The group gathered in the shattered remains of the attic, where the air was thick with malevolence. Marek drew the sigil on the floor, encircling the group in protective wards. When the Keeper appeared, it was no longer the fragmented ghost of Eleanor Blackthorne. It had grown monstrous, a towering figure of shadows and twisted faces, its voice a cacophony of anguish and rage. "You cannot stop me," it roared, the walls trembling with its fury. Ethan stepped forward, clutching a relic, a locket that once belonged to Timothy. "Eleanor," he shouted, "your son isn't here, but his bloodline is. You wanted justice, not endless destruction. And this now." The Keeper hesitated, its many faces flickering. Lydia, her voice frail but steady, began humming the haunting melody, but this time, it softened into something mournful, almost tender. The Lindale matriarch stepped forward, tears in her eyes. "We're sorry for what was done to you. We carry the weight of our ancestors' sins, but this is not the way." The Keeper's form began to shrink, its rage dimming. The faces in the shadows faded, leaving only Eleanor's spectral figure. She stepped forward, her expression conflicted. "I was betrayed," she said, her voice trembling. "But this wasn't justice. It was pain." Ethan held out the locket. "Let it end. Rest now." Eleanor reached for the locket, her touch turning it to light. The attic filled with a warm glow, the sigil pulsing as the Keeper's form dissolved into fragments of ash and light. A single tear fell down Eleanor's ghostly cheek before she faded entirely. The oppressive weight lifted. The air in the manor was still, peaceful. The melody was gone. Lydia collapsed but woke moments later, her eyes clear and her voice steady. "She's gone," she whispered. Blackthorne Manor stood quiet once more, its curse finally broken. Ethan, Lydia, and Marek left the estate as dawn painted the sky with hope. The Lindale family vowed to honor Eleanor's memory and ensure her story would never be forgotten. Ethan and Lydia moved on, their bond stronger for the ordeal. Though scars remained, they knew they had faced the darkness and won. Blackthorne Manor, now silent, stood as a testament to a curse undone and a soul finally at peace. For the first time in centuries, the Keeper's song would never be heard again.